Hey mathematics learners, welcome to Distance Learning with Lee, where I make learning mathematics super easy. On today's video tutorial, guys, we are still going through the grade 12 mathematics literacy paper 2 that was written in June 2021. And we are going to be focusing on question 2 in this video tutorial, guys. And question 2 covers map interpretation, right? So we are going to be interpreting a map that is given to us in Annexure A. Okay, another thing that is also tested in question 2, guys, you are tested on whether you can convert from meters to kilometers, and you are also tested on whether you are able to convert from minutes to hours, right? If you don't know how you're supposed to convert from minutes to hours, and if you're also struggling with converting from meters to kilometers, please make sure that you watch this whole video tutorial, guys, because I'm going to be taking you guys through that detailed approach. Before we get started with the video tutorial, guys, please make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. Please make sure that you also click on the notification bell so that you get notified every time I upload a new video tutorial, guys. And also please make sure that you click on that like button. Please do not leave this video tutorial without clicking on that like button. So without any further ado, guys, let us get started with the video. So like I mentioned, guys, on today's video tutorial, we are going to be going through question 2, and question 2 tests map interpretations, right? So we're just going to start off by just reading the information that is given to us, and from there we're going to start tackling these questions. So it says that Dumi received a bursary to study at the University of Victoria in Canada. She traveled from the University of Victoria to Victoria downtown. Annexure A shows the map and 2 routes she could have used to travel on. A summary of the routes via Cadborough Road and Pandora Avenue she used is listed below. So we're given basically a summary of the route that she used to get to Victoria downtown. So let's just have a look at this Annexure A. Okay, so this is just a map of a portion of Victoria in Canada, right? And we are told that Udumi basically received a bursary to study at the University of Victoria in Canada, and she basically is traveling from the University of Victoria in Canada to Victoria downtown, right? So she's basically traveling from the University of Victoria to Victoria downtown. And we are told that basically there's 2 route options, right? And she basically decided to use this route option, whereas she took Cedar Hill Cross Road and she followed that path to get to Victoria downtown, right? We are also given a summary of basically the route that she took, right? So let's just have a look at that, because this summary also incorporates or includes the distance that she traveled between the sections, right? So let's just have a look at what happened as she was moving from the University of Victoria to Victoria downtown. Okay, so let's just have a look at the map. We are given the summary of the route that Victoria took to go to the summary of the route that Udumi took to go to Victoria downtown from the University of Victoria, right? We are told that she starts off, right, from the University of Victoria, and she gets onto the Cedar Hill Crossroad, right? And from the Cedar Hill Crossroad, she heads towards Crestview, okay? So she moves from the University of Victoria, she gets into Cedar Hill Crossroad, right? And then from that from position 1, right, she moves or she heads towards Crestview. And we are told that the distance or the drive that she took from the Cedar Hill Crossroad towards Crestview is 190 meters. So from 1 to 2, right, she basically took 190 meters, right? So the drive was 190 meters from that position to that position, right? And then we are told that when she gets to Crestview, she turned right onto Cadborough Road, and she drove on Cadborough Road for 3.2 kilometers, right? So she drives from position 2 to position 3, right, for 3.2 kilometers. Okay, that distance there is 3.2 kilometers. Okay, and then we're told that at position 3, okay, she continued on to 4th Street, and she was on 4th Street for an unknown amount of kilometers, right? So we need to determine the distance from position 3 to position 4, right? And then we're told that when she got then to your position 4, she then took a slight right onto Pandora Avenue, and then she continued driving for 2.1 kilometers to get to her final destination, right? So she drove for 2.1 kilometers from position 4 to her final destination. So that distance from there to there is 2.1 kilometers. All right, so I've basically given you a summary of the route that she took based on the information that is given to us here, right? All right, so basically that is the route that she took, right? So now let's just have a look at the question. Okay, first question, 2.1.1. In which general direction did she head from Cedar Hill Crossroad towards Crestview? So we know that when Victoria moved from the university, right, onto Cedar Hill Crossroad, right, she moved in that direction, heading towards Crestview. So we need to determine what is that direction, right? What is that direction? As you guys can see here, right, we are shown that north is up, right? And from the previous video that I did with you guys, where I was going through map interpretation as well, I explained that a nice way that you can remember where your east is, where your south is, where your west is, you can say naughty elephant sprays water, right? So that just helps you remember where your east, where your south, where your west is, right? And then from there, you literally just draw lines like that, okay? And then you also draw these additional lines like that, okay, where you are going to put the additional directions. For example, that there is northeast, okay? That there is southeast, okay? That there is southwest, okay? And that there is northwest, right? So now we need to determine which general direction did she head from Cedar Hill Crossroads towards Crestview, right? We know that she headed in that direction, right, to move when she moved from Cedar Hill Crossroad towards Crestview. So what do we call that direction, right? What do we call that direction, okay? So if you're moving in that direction, you can see that obviously she's not going up, so it can't be northwest, but she's moving down. So it is southeast because she is moving in that direction, and that direction is not south, right? It's not south because she's not going straight down in that direction, right? It's definitely not east because she's not moving to the right, right? It's definitely not north because she's not moving up, right? It's definitely not west because she's not moving left, right? But it is definitely southeast because she is moving in the southeast direction towards your Crestview. Okay, so she is moving in the southeast direction towards Crestview. Okay, let's move on. Question 2.1.2, determine the distance that she traveled on 4th Street, right? As you can see here, guys, as we are going through our map, right, we filled in all the distances that she traveled between these sections, right? So from 1 to 2, we said that she traveled 190 meters. From 2 to 3, we said that she traveled 3.2 kilometers, right? Okay. from 3 to 4. That is the unknown distance that you traveled that we need to determine, right? And then from 4 to the destination, she traveled 2.1 kilometers. So how do we get that unknown distance that she traveled on Forte Street, right? So here, guys, we were also given information. We were told that, okay, you can even see it here on the map, that the total distance that Utumi traveled from the University of Victoria to Victoria downtown is 6.8 kilometers, right? That is the total distance traveled. And the time that she took to move from the University of Victoria to Victoria downtown was 12 minutes. So we're given the time and we're also given the distance that she traveled, right? So it's 6.8 kilometers. So how do we get that missing distance that we don't have there, that she traveled on 4th Street, right? So how do we get it? We need to add all these kilometers, right? And we need to subtract them from the total to get that missing distance. So that is exactly what we're going to do. Okay, so we're going to add all these distances. So it's going to be 190 meters, right? But I'm sure you can see that we've got a problem, because all the other distances are in kilometers, but then this is in meters. So that is already telling us that we need to convert this to kilometers so that we've got a nice flow of our units that are all in kilometers. So we need to convert that to kilometers first before we can even begin adding. Okay, so we're going to convert that to kilometers, right? We know that we're going to start with kilometers, meters, centimeters, and millimeters, right? So this is how you are supposed to convert, right? From a bigger unit to a smaller unit, okay? You need to remember this order. Okay, and to move from kilometers to meters, you need to multiply by 1,000, remember? To move from meters to centimeters, you need to multiply by 100. To move from centimeters to meters, you need to multiply by 10, right? And then we just do the inverse of what we did at the top here. To move from a smaller unit to a bigger unit, you need to divide by 10, right? To move from meters to centimeters, you divide by 10. To move from centimeters to meters, divide by 100. To move from meters to kilometers, you need to divide by 1,000. You guys need to remember this, right? So how do we convert 190 meters into kilometers, right? So we're going to say 190 meters, right? We want to convert meters into kilometers. So we're moving from the smaller unit to a bigger unit. Therefore, we need to divide. You need to divide by 1,000, right? We need to divide by 1,000. So 190 meters divided by 1,000 is going to give us our units in kilometers, right? So 190 meters divided by 1,000 is going to be equal to 0.19 kilometers, right? That is 0.19 kilometers. And then from here, then we are happy because we've got our units from point 1 to point 2 in kilometers, and that is equal to 0.19 kilometers. I'm just going to change that there, 0.19 km. And then we are just going to add all these distances together, and we are going to subtract them from the total distance to get that missing distance there. Okay, so that is exactly what I'm going to do. Okay, so it's 0.19 kilometers from 1 to 2, 19 kilometers plus 3.2 kilometers from 2 to 3 plus, we don't know what 3 to 4 is, so we're going to leave that out for now. All right, and then from 4 to 5, it is 2.1 kilometers. Okay, we are going to get the total. Okay, 0.19 plus 3.2 plus 2.1 is equal to 5.49 kilometers. And then that 5.49, we're just going to simply take the total distance that you traveled from 1 all the way to the final destination. We'll call that 5, right? Which is 6.8 kilometers minus 5.49 kilometers to give us that missing distance there, because that's the only missing distance there. So surely that missing value then is that distance there. Okay, so 6.8 minus 5.49, and your answer is 1.31 kilometers. Okay, so the distance that she traveled on Forte, why do I keep saying Forte? On 4th Street, right, is 1.31 kilometers. So that distance there is actually 1.31 kilometers. And if you just do a double check, right, if you add all these distances together, you should get that 6.8 kilometers, right? Add all those distances together, you should get 6.8 kilometers. So let's just quickly check that quickly, all right? So if you take that 0.19 plus 3.2 plus 1.31 plus 2.1, you'll get 6.8, right? So then we are happy. So that distance from 3 to 4, that missing distance there on 4th Street is 1.31 kilometers. So we're going to move on, guys. Name the road she traveled on after crossing Flower Street. So what is the road that she traveled on after crossing Flower Street, right? This is 2.1.3. So what is the road? What is the road that she traveled on after crossing Flower Street? Okay. So we see here now, okay, she went from the university onto Cedar Hill Cross Road, right, towards Crestview, right, and then from there she turned right onto Cadbury Road, right? So this is just the summary that I'm reading from the table that we are given, right? So she turned right onto Cadbury Road, right? And we see that, okay, here she crossed Flower Street, right? She crossed Flower Street. From 2, she passed Lansdowne, right? And she passed Flower, right? And then at point 3, right, that's when she moved into 4th Street. So from 3 to 4, right, we had already established that that is 4th Street, right? So therefore, the road that she traveled on after crossing Flower Street, after she crossed Flower Street, right, that road that she traveled on here is 4th Street, right? She crossed Flower Street and she got onto 4th Street. Okay, so that is the road that she traveled on after crossing Flower Street. Okay, let's move on to question 2.14. Calculate in kilometers per hour the average speed she traveled. You may use the formula. So we're given the formula. Distance is equals to speed multiplied by time. I'm just going to rewrite the formula here. Okay, so that is the formula. Distance is equal to speed multiplied by time. And we need to calculate the average speed that she traveled. So what are we given? Yeah, we are given that she traveled 12 minutes. So we've got what? The time. I'm just going to say time is equal to 12 minutes because she traveled 12 minutes to get to her destination. And we are also given the distance, right? Is the distance that she traveled from the university to Victoria downtown. The distance that she traveled, we're given here, is 6.8 kilometers. What are we also told? We are told that we need to calculate in kilometers per hour the average speed she traveled. So we need to get the average speed. So how do we get the average speed? Okay, so we can get the average speed by isolating the speed on the right hand side, right? And how do we isolate the speed? Okay, we are just going to divide by the time. I'll show you guys. If you divide by time, right? Divide by time, because you've got a multiplication there, so we can divide by time. And if you divide by time, do you see that they cancel, right? They cancel. And then what is the formula then for average speed? Okay, I'm just gonna put this there. Okay, we can see that the average speed, or we can just say distance over time, is equal to the speed, right, that Dumi traveled. The average speed that she traveled. Okay, right. So we've got the distance in kilometers because they want our answer, right? They did specify that they need it to be in kilometers per hour. It needs to be in kilometers per hour, right? So the units for distance needs to be kilometers, okay? Kilometers. And the units for time needs to be in hours. But we've got a problem here. What is the problem? The units for time is actually in minutes. So we need to convert the units for time into hours. So how do we convert them into hours? So I'm just going to do a separate block here, right? So that I show you that calculation. To convert minutes into hours, you need to remember how many minutes do we have in an hour, right? 1 hour is equal to 60 minutes. Okay, 1 hour is equal to 60 minutes. So we've got 12 minutes here, and we want to convert these minutes into hours. So you're going to write 12 minutes, right? And to convert these into hours, right, you're going to multiply by what you want. You want the units to be in hours. So you're going to multiply by what you want, which is hours, right? And you're going to divide by what you have, minutes, 60 minutes. And then what do you notice here? If you actually divide by 60 minutes, the minutes and the minutes actually cancel. The units for minutes actually cancel. Do you see that there? And you'll be left with 12 hours divided by 6, right? So already your units now is in hours, right? So you simply take your calculator, punch in 12 over 60 to get the units in hours, right? So 12 minutes is equivalent to 0.2 hours. So we've got our units now in hours. So we are ready to substitute everything into our formula. We know that the distance is actually 6.8 kilometers, and we know that the time in hours is 0.2, right, hours, and that is obviously what we're looking for. We're looking for average speed, and then we just simply gonna punch everything into a calculator, get our answer 6.8 over 0.2, which is equal to 34 kilometers. Do you see? Kilometers per over hours, right? So that is the average speed that Udumi traveled. Okay, and we are done. Kilometers per hour, not hours. Okay, and then we are done. Let's go on to question 2.1.5. Okay, question 2.1.5. On another day, so Udumi is very busy, right? We are Phithizela here in Canada. Okay, on another day, Dumi traveled from the University of Victoria to Victoria downtown again via Shelburne at an average speed of 36.5 kilometers per hour. We need to calculate in meters the difference between the distances of the two routes. So we remember, right? So let's just focus on what we are told. We are told that on another day, Dumi traveled from the University of Victoria to Victoria downtown via Shelburne, right? So where is this Shelburne that they're talking about? That's the route. So now she actually didn't use this route, right, to get to Victoria downtown. However, she used this route to get to Victoria downtown. She went via Shelburne to get to Victoria downtown. So now they're telling us that we need to calculate the difference between the distances of the two routes. We already know that with the first route, the distance was 6.8. So we're going to say route 1. Okay, so route 1 the distance was 6.8 kilometers. Okay. And then in root 2, what is the distance for root 2? Are we given the distance for root 2? Okay. We are not given the distance for root 2. However, we are given the average speed that she traveled when she was using route 2. Okay, so for route 2, what are we given? We are given the average speed, okay, and the average speed, which is 36.5 kilometers per hour, okay, and we are also given the time that she took to get to Victoria downtown, and that is 11 minutes, right? So we're also given time for route 2, which is 11 minutes. Okay, so now how do we get our distance? Because surely if we get the distance, then we can just subtract these two routes from each other, the distance of these two routes from each other, to get the difference between the distances of the two routes. Okay, so we need to first get the distance for our route 2 because we don't have it. We just have the average speed. We just have the time. We do need the distance. Remember, we were given the nice formula that we can use, that distance is equal to speed multiplied by time. So distance is equal to speed multiplied by time. Okay. Again, here we've got our time in minutes. Okay. We've got our time in minutes. We need to convert these minutes into hours because why? Our units for our average speed is in hours. So we can't just say 36.5 kilometers per hour multiplied by 11 minutes. We are not in the same WhatsApp group anymore. We need to literally be in the same WhatsApp. We need to convert these minutes into hours so that everything corresponds with each other. Okay, so let's convert these 11 minutes into hours. Remember, what did I say? How many minutes do we have in 1 hour? We said 1 hour is equal to 60 minutes. You've got 60 minutes in an hour. So you're going to say 11 minutes, right? Multiplied by what you want. You want your units in hours. 1 hour divided by what you have. You've got your units in minutes, right? And then how can you check if what you're doing is actually correct? How can you check if these units are actually canceling, right? They cancel. They should cancel because that's at the top and that's at the bottom. These units are canceling, right? These units are canceling. And then you're going to be left with 11 multiplied by 1. Okay, this is just multiplication of fractions. 11 multiplied by 1 is 11 over 1 multiplied by 60. That is just 11 multiplied by 1 hour is 11 hour over 1 multiplied by 60. The units for minutes already cancelled. So our answer is going to be 11 over 60, which is 0.18183 hours. So we've converted then these minutes, our time, into hours, right? So now we are ready to substitute everything into our formula. Our speed is 36.5 kilometers per hour, right? Multiplied by our time, which is 0.183 hours, right? It's important that you write it like that as a fraction. So you see how these units are canceling. It's very important that you do this, guys, so that you don't make a mistake. And then what we notice, you notice that the hour and the hour cancels, right? And you're going to be left with 36.5 kilometers. 36.5 kilometers minus 0.183, which is 6.6795, which is like saying that is left there. 6.68 kilometers, right? So this is our distance in kilometers for our route 2. So we've got our distance for our route 1. Got our distance for our route 2. The question is asking us to get the difference between the distances of the two routes, right? So you're going to simply take your route 1 minus your route 2. So route 1 is 6.8 kilometers minus your route 2 is route 2, 6.68 kilometers, right? If you punch that into your calculator, 6.8 minus 6.8, which is 0.12 kilometers, right? But then what did they say here? We need to calculate the difference between the distances of the two routes in meters. So we need to convert this into meters, right? So we're simply going to go back to this here, right? If you want to convert from kilometers to meters, so in this case, we are moving from kilometers to meters, right? So if you move from kilometers to meters, you need to multiply by 1,000, right? So I'm going to multiply by 1,000. So that's 0.12 multiplied by 1,000 is going to give us the units in meters, right? So 0.12 multiplied by 1,000, which is 120 meters. Another thing that is important for you guys to see here, guys, is that I'd advise you guys to actually leave the conversion that you've done from minutes to hours as 11 over 60. So instead of saying multiplied by 0.183 hours, you're actually going to say multiplied by 11 over 60 hours. So let me just show you what I mean by that. So you're going to say, right, so you're just going to say 36.5 kilometers multiplied by 11.6 hours. So that makes your answer more accurate, right? And then from there, you're just going to go to your calculator. You're just going to say 36.5 multiplied by 11 over 60. And you're going to get your answer to be 6.69, right? So that's 6.69 kilometers, right? And then from there, you'll see that will also change to be 6.69 kilometers, right? So that's just the more accurate. This is just a more accurate value. Okay, so 6.8 minus 6.69, so 6.8. You'll get that it's 0.11 kilometers, right? And then from there, to convert it into meters, you know that you're just gonna multiply it by 1,000, like I just showed you guys, and then you are going to get 110 meters. So that is the distance between the distances of the two routes. Okay, so that is it for today's video tutorial, guys. I'm sorry that I had to actually resort to explaining the last part like this. My battery is flat, so I had to connect my charger. But yeah, that is it for today's tutorial, guys. I hope you guys understood everything. I hope I simplified everything for you guys, and I'll see you guys on the next upload. We are going to be going through the apartment layout. That is it, guys, and I'll see you guys on my next upload, Distance Learning with Lee, where I make learning mathematics super easy. Bye.